Howdy folks, and welcome back once again to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, and we have an interesting one for you today in a couple of ways. This is a Silver League ranked battle, and I believe it's on the North American server, judging by all the trash talk that you're going to see in chat. And no, that's not what's unusual about it, that's perfectly normal for the North American server. What is unusual about this particular ranked battle? Well, first of all, the team compositions. There are no cruisers, just 3 extremely nervous battleships on each team and 4 destroyers. What is even more unusual is the way that Stephen C-93 here has set up his Kleber, the French Tier 10 destroyer, which typically mostly sees use as an extremely fast and heavy-hitting gunboat. Incidentally, I'm curious, I don't actually know. I wonder if the C-93 in his name refers to the pennant number of HMS Naiad, a Dido-class cruiser that was sunk in World War II. But anyway, I digress. The more eagle-eyed amongst you may have already noticed something slightly odd about his surface detection range, which is a mere 6.2 kilometres. It's not fantastic by destroyer standards, but it's bloody impressive for a Kleber. Stephen has a stealth torpedo build Kleber, which is unusual, but not ineffective. It does mean a couple of things, however. First, it's more difficult to play the Kleber like this effectively than to simply go for the standard gunboat build. The gunboat build, of course, something that the Kleber, quite rightly, is feared and respected for, but nobody expects a stealth torpedo build on the Kleber. The problem is the trade-offs that you have to sacrifice in order to get the stealth down to 6.2 kilometers and to maximize the effectiveness of the torpedoes. Because what you have to give up for that is the gun performance, and Stephen's guns have a reload of 13 seconds. There are Japanese heavy cruisers that have a faster reload on their 8-inch guns than he does. Okay, the Fire and Fury talent just activated. What that tells us is that he has the French unique commander, I'll attempt to pronounce his name, Philippe Aubonneau, or something like that, as the captain of his Kleber. And the Fire and Fury talent, what that means is every time you capture or assist in a capture, it increases the fire chance for your main battery shells, which is not going to be particularly useful for Stephen in the course of this battle, because his guns do have a 13-second reload, so he's not going to be using them too much. However, on those occasions when he is going to need to use his guns, and he is, the Kleber does have a trick up its sleeve, the main battery reload booster. But if Stephen has any sense, he's going to be saving that reload booster for when he absolutely definitely has to use his guns, because he's been outspotted by another enemy destroyer. And the team have just lost one of their own, because unlike Stephen's team, the enemy team have 2 radars, a Schmaland and a Missouri, and the enemy Schmaland just sunk the team Z-52. Things are not looking too good over at capture point A, and Stephen is indeed telling the Montana, who's following him and the Halland, we've got this, we can handle the Grosser Curve first, assist the team over in Alpha. The Montana, of course, is going to be paying no attention to this whatsoever. Another thing I'd like you to pay attention to is the friendly Gearing, who's currently retreating from capture point Alpha at full speed. I say friendly Gearing, he's not that friendly. He entered this battle pink, which probably means he's been extremely careless with his torpedoes. That, of course, is just speculation. One thing that is not speculation, as Steve lands a couple of torpedoes, a couple of very nice torpedoes on the Grosser Kurfürst up there, but one thing that is not speculation is that Gearing player, while he may be reckless with his torpedoes, he is undoubtedly, absolutely 100% extremely reckless with his mouth, as we're going to see in chat. And for those of you who might not be watching this on a screen with a high enough resolution to actually see what's going on in chat, don't worry, I'll be sure to give you a summary as and when it's appropriate. Meanwhile, the friendly Halland is in a lot of trouble. He got too close to the Grosser Kurfürst, he's getting shot at by the GK secondaries and also getting shot at by a Harugamo. The Harugamo, of course, possibly the most deadly gunboat destroyer in the game, but that Harugamo has made a very serious error of judgment. He's gunned the Halland down, and if the guns hadn't killed him, the torpedoes probably would, but in doing so, he wasn't watching where he was going, and he drove straight into the island. Oops, torpedoes. Well, those were definitely not from the Grosser Kurfürst, which means there's another enemy destroyer around here. But Stephen, spotting the opportunity to make good use of the main battery reload booster, used it there to, believe it or not, win a gunfight with the Harugamo. Okay. And, yep, Z-52. But the Z-52, who's spotting him, is 6.1 kilometres away. And Stephen's surface detection range is 6.2, so all he has to do is get slightly further away. You can see he's thinking about shooting at him, and that was probably the instant where he realised, actually, no. Because if he had started shooting, he would have stayed detected for the next 20 seconds. Instead, he just took his finger off the trigger, went undetected, and he's safe. Meanwhile, I don't know if you caught it in chat, but while that was going on, our friend in the gearing is already making his presence felt. Not by doing anything useful, like, shooting at enemy ships. No, he's running his mouth off. You can just catch it there at the top of the chat box. The Grosser Kurfürst up there asked everybody to please report the Z-52. Not entirely sure why, I'm sure he had his reasons. The gearing responded, only if you report our French destroyers. The gearing does not appear to appreciate the way that Stephen has set up his ship or his captain, and oh boy, he's going to make sure everybody knows about it. Meanwhile, Stephen, using the Kleber's ridiculous speed in order to deftly avoid the torpedoes fired by the Z-52. The Kleber does, by the way, come with 4 torpedo launchers, 2 on each side. And in the absence of anything better to fire them at in the meantime, he's just sent one widespread off in the general direction of where that Z-52 was. Meanwhile, the team have just lost an Alsace, victim to one of the other enemy destroyers. Stephen, however, as you might expect, being pursued by a Z-52 that outspots him, is not abandoning the cap circle. Instead, he's sticking around and has just in fact managed to cap it. He was able to do this because the Z-52 that outspots him was not pursuing him, which may be one of the reasons why the Grosser Kurfürst was demanding that everybody report him. Now, since the Montana is still pursuing that Grosser Kurfürst, and since the Z-52 does outspot Stephen, and his guns only have a 13-second reload without the main battery reload booster active, Stephen makes a perfectly reasonable request of the gearing. And in fact, he's not the only one making a perfectly reasonable request of the gearing. The Montana is spamming the gearing and requesting assistance, which is exactly what Stephen just suggested the gearing do, because the gearing is far better equipped to handle a Z-52 and protect the Montana than Stephen is himself. Perfectly reasonable and sensible request. The gearing wants to know why Stephen couldn't take care of it himself, which would seem like a perfectly reasonable question if Stephen hadn't already explained why at the start of the battle, so all the gearing's really doing is proving that he only pays attention to chat when he's using it himself. And oh boy, he's going to start using chat. In fact, he's going to be doing a whole lot of nothing other than using chat for the rest of this battle. He's certainly not going to be protecting the Montana. At least, I think he's not going to be protecting the Montana, because if he is, he's doing a remarkably piss-poor job of it. Oh, shit. Out of the frying pan, into the fire, Stephen's just run into the enemy gearing, and he is hopelessly outgunned. But then he uses the reload booster again. Oh, a couple more torpedo hits. Probably on the Grosser Kurfürst, but we'll worry about that in a moment. For now, we just have to concentrate on not dying to the gearing. Unfortunately, the reload booster just expired. Look at this reload now. Man, that is painfully slow. His previous hit did, however, knock out the gearing's engine. And, yeah, the gearing's had enough of that. So he's smoked up. Although Stephen is still spotted, and he's getting lit up by the Grosser Kurfürst secondaries, but ducking in behind this island should soon fix that problem. Still not quite sure who's spotting him. That's kind of worrying. Although he has now gone undetected. A couple of torpedoes into the gearing smoke screen, because we know his engine has been knocked out. Speaking of gearings, the friendly gearing, and again I use the word friendly in the broadest possible sense of the word, still can't just shut up. I mean, he clearly understands Stephen's build, because Stephen's had to explain it to him twice now, but he just won't let it go. He has to make sure everybody knows that Stephen's choice of skills and equipment is stupid. Meanwhile, the capture circle down to the south is getting flipped, which probably means that the gearing has repaired his engine and he's busy capping. And with his main battery reload booster on cooldown for the moment, although it's coming off cooldown soon, there's nothing that Stephen can realistically do about it just yet. He's attempting to get a fire set on the Grosser Kurfürst up there. The enemy Missouri has just sunk the team's Jean Bart, which means that Stephen's team are now outnumbered 2-1, and the enemy gearing down to the south has completed his capture, and with capture point B and A now under their control, he reveals his position momentarily by lighting up Stephen, as well as sending a couple of torpedoes in his direction. Speaking of gearings, the friendly gearing has been quiet for a minute or two, only because he's managed to find and then lose the Z-52 and then run into one of the Z-52's torpedoes. However, he did have shots in the air, and one of them at least struck the Z-52 and got an extremely lucky detonation. So if not for blind luck, that Z-52 would still be alive and would still be hunting the Montana, who did manage at least to finish off that extremely low health Grosser Kurfürst, but now has a big problem. Admittedly, not as big a problem as he had a couple of seconds ago when he had a Z-52 behind him and a Schmalland in front of him, but he still has the Schmalland in front of him, and the Schmalland, unsurprisingly, now that he has the undivided attention of the Montana, has gone undetected. Equally unsurprisingly, now that the gearing has nothing to do, he's once again going to be active in chat. Ironically, he's insisting that Stephen refuses to fire his guns, although the 50 gun hits that he scored so far, including the one that sank the Harugamo, don't quite tally up with the gearing's interpretation of reality. Oh, speaking of which, there's the enemy gearing again. Unfortunately, his reload booster is not yet ready to go and the gearing is shooting back. Look at how slow this reload is. It's ready to go. It turns out he didn't actually need it. The final salvo finishes off the gearing. That's not bad going, really, for a destroyer that apparently refuses to use its guns. He's killed 2 destroyers with guns alone. And one of those was a Harugamo, who, admittedly, was kind of preoccupied at the time with finishing off a Halland, but still, one of them was a Harugamo. So that's evened up the odds a little. They're still outnumbered, 3 against 2. But the Montana has managed to catch sight of the Schmalland again, and that's going to be really bad news for the Schmalland. Of course, the Montana has continually been spotted by the Schmalland, which is not good news for the Montana, but such is the fate of battleship captains who have to fight destroyers. On the other hand, since we know that the Schmalland is stalking the Montana, and we've just killed the gearing, and there's the Jean Bart. Don't know where the Missouri is, but, well, we're going to see the Missouri before the Missouri sees us. With 6.2 kilometer surface detection range, it's now theoretically perfectly safe to flip capture point Bravo again, while the Montana fights for his life, and he's managed to redetect the Schmalland. Not entirely sure why the Schmalland is allowing the Montana to get so close. And he's managed to get him. Unfortunately, the Montana's victory is going to prove to be exceptionally short-lived, because he was, of course, continually being spotted by the Schmalland, and the Missouri has some shells in the air. And that means Stephen is now alone against the last 2 enemies. The good news is they're both battleships, and because of the particular way that he's set up this Kleber, he only has a 6.2 kilometer surface detection range. The bad news is that he's still 100 points behind, and even though he now has 2 caps, it shouldn't be too difficult for those 2 enemy battleships to predict where he's going. The final cap circle. And the Missouri has radar. The Jean Bart, however, well, the Jean Bart's heading away. Now, I don't know if that's because the Jean Bart realises that Stephen is going to be heading for capture point Alpha and doesn't want to be anywhere near a destroyer, or he hasn't figured out that Stephen's going to be heading for capture point Alpha and is basically just kind of herping around and doesn't really know what he's doing. I mean, either are possible, but we do at least know where the Missouri is. because somebody's flipping capture point Charlie, and that's great news because we know where the Jean Bart is, we can see him, we can stay outside of his detection range, and the Missouri is way too far away to even catch us with radar. And since the Jean Bart isn't interested, there's nothing to stop Stephen from flipping Alpha. The problem here is flipping Alpha might not be enough. The enemy team are still 70 points ahead. And they're going to go even further ahead once they finish flipping Charlie. And there's less than 5 minutes of this game left. Stephen may need another kill. And he's not really in a position to do it because he absolutely must flip Alpha regardless of what else he does. He sends a couple of shots in the direction of the Jean Bart there. Not entirely safe. I mean, he didn't get spotted because of the island, but if the Jean Bart didn't already realise that Stephen was heading for Alpha, he must by now. Now here's the thing. If I was that Jean Bart and I realised that the last surviving ship on the enemy team had just shot at me from behind this island, I would be coming this way now, using the island cover to get as close as possible and inside the destroyer's surface detection range. So I thought that the way Stephen was initially turning in towards the Jean Bart there could have been working against him, because he could have popped up from behind that island already inside that 6.2 kilometre range from the Jean Bart. And if you're thinking, well, yeah, but the Jean Bart was too far away, couldn't have made it in time. Well, the Jean Bart has an engine boost. And Stephen's doing over 40 knots. So it could have happened, but it didn't. Because the Jean Bart does not appear to realise that he's fighting an enemy destroyer. He was angled away, presenting the most narrow target profile, with the torpedoes having to chase him to catch him, and now he's turned broadside on, same course, same speed, even though the first set of torpedoes ran out of steam so close they must have scraped his paint. He's still sailing the same course, same speed, even though Stephen has just been radared and is being shot at by the Missouri. He's still sailing the same course and the same speed. And the destruction of the Jean Bart, appropriately enough called Captain Choke, has just dramatically flipped the points. The enemy team were at 962 points, 70 points ahead, and as quickly as that they dropped down to 904 points, 30 points behind. And now, with a points lead, all Stephen has to do is nothing. But if there's one thing that we've learnt around here, boys and girls, it's just how difficult it can be for people to do nothing when they need to. Stephen, however, is not one of those people. He's got the island between him and the Missouri. He's comfortably outside of radar range. The Missouri is never going to get its radar back in time to prevent Stephen from reaching 1,000 points and winning this match. That gearing's gone very quiet all of a sudden, hasn't he? Yes, a stealth torpedo Kleber build. Yes, it's unorthodox. Yes, it's tricky to make it work. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. Stephen C93 in the Kleber. Boldly going where most Klebers don't bother going. I hope you enjoyed today's video, folks, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.